This is pumping live fish, which I'm sure many people have never seen before, right? This pump is not just any pump either, it's called a spiral centrifugal pump, and it was originally invented to convey live fish. Surely someone is curious, the fish are sucked into the pump will not be injured. This pump impeller shape structure using a large package angle twisted blade, so the flow channel space is very large, the fish in the pump has plenty of space to move, like a trip to the labyrinth, turn around on the way out, and will not accumulate or clogging, so as to avoid injuries. Of course, the size of the pump also determines the size of the fish. One of the most critical parts of the spiral centrifugal pump is its unique spiral centrifugal impeller, which has both spiral and centrifugal effects. It consists of two parts, the suction pipe and the worm case. The impeller in the suction pipe part produces spiral propulsion, and the impeller in the worm case part produces centrifugal effect like a general centrifugal pump. In other words, the liquid is first turned in by the front impeller and then thrown out by the back impeller, thus realizing pumping. Compared with other pumps with the same function, the structure of the spiral centrifugal pump determines that it has the following characteristics. First of all, it is not easy to produce clogging. The special vane structure creates a large channel, which has a much higher passing capacity compared to a conventional centrifugal impeller with the same outside diameter. The second is soft conveying and good non-destructive performance. The solid liquid fluid will be gradually pushed forward by the balanced spiral force, and there is no sudden change in the flow direction, thus the flow is balanced, so it is especially suitable for conveying live fish, and it will not cause any harm to them in the process of conveying. There is also a good suction performance of the pump. The pump vane from small to large design can be quickly sucked into the object and realize the pumping, but also does not produce large vibration and noise. Now the spiral centrifugal pump is mainly used to transport mixed solid liquid fluids, but also can be used for drainage and transportation of high viscosity liquids. In order to prevent solid matter from clogging and make it flow out smoothly, the spiral vane in the impeller is designed to be twisted, and the radius of the vane is gradually increased to form a spiral flow channel. However, the spiral centrifugal pump requires high impeller balance and higher precision, so it is more difficult and costly to manufacture. With the increasing development and improvement of the spiral centrifugal pump, the application field has been gradually expanded, and now it has been widely used in petrochemical, pulp wastewater, food treatment and other fields. I didn't realize that Chinese pole scales contain great wisdom. The first 7 weighing flowers symbolize the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, warning people to do business in the direction, not to be obsessed with money. The middle 6 indicate the 6 directions of east, west, south, north, up and down, warning businessmen to find the right position, not to be wrong-minded, lack of caddy. After the Qin Shi Huang united the 6 kingdoms, he added the last 3 stars, which represent the blessing of fortune and longevity. Lacking 1 or 2 would jeopardize the virtue and fortune, 2 less would hurt the profit and fortune, and deceiving 3 would break the life. If the buyer is weighed high, it implies that it will increase happiness, wealth and life. As the old saying goes, if you don't know how to weigh flowers, it's hard to be in charge. So why is there 16 flowers on a scale? Legend has it that the pole scale was invented by family of the state of Chu more than 2,000 years ago, and because the strokes of peace under heaven are exactly 16, hexadecimal system was adopted. 1 caddy is equal to 16 taels, which is the origin of half a caddy, 8 taels. The pole scale is not only full of knowledge, the production is also very careful. First of all, the scale must use hard sandalwood or nanbo, and dry it for more than 2 years. Then use the planer to scrape the wood into a thin head and tail of a thin rod. This step is called planing rod, only practicing more than 3 years of craftsmen can do. The next step is to set the cutter, install 3 scales in the position of the hook and rope to hang the scales, and then cut off a layer of the 2 ends wrapped in copper, to prevent the scales from cracking or wear and tear. The key to the accuracy of a scale pole is the accuracy of the scale. First use a standard weighing pan and scale to find the equilibrium point, which is the 0 scale. But the equivalence of weight and length is actually a complex mathematical calculus problem, and the scale maker can easily mark the other scales using only a 2-foot gauge. Unfortunately, there are very few smiths left in the country who are still able to make standard pole scales. The next step is to drill holes, embed copper wires, and nail scale flowers, all of which can only be made of yellow copper or white tin, indicating that the businessmen should be clean and not cheap people with a black heart. Finally, with oil stone, soap alum, 5 times the rod will be sanded, polished and colored. A standard Chinese pole scale is ready. A standard Chinese pole scale is ready. For taels of human heart is half a gold blessing. Although the scale is small, it can weigh the hearts of the people. Nowadays, electronic scales, which are more accurate and cannot be cheated by human beings, have completely replaced pole scales, and the pole scales, which have gathered the wisdom of 2,000 years of Chinese business, have gradually disappeared in the long river of history. The scale is for power, the pole is for balance, weighing the conscience of heaven and earth, fairness and justice. Will our children and grandchildren be able to see the pole scale? When I was a child, I was often teased by others with this thing, then it was very curious about what it is like inside, the results of the demolition of a 7.5 and did not figure out the principle of it. Today finally figured out the inside of the high-tech. It is the lighter in the ignition device, piezoelectric. Piezoelectric structure is not complicated, a spring below the pressure of a hammer, and then down is a piezoelectric ceramic. When the lighter is pressed, the internal spring is compressed. Once the spring reaches maximum compression, the hammer will quickly hit the piezoelectric ceramic. The impact produces a voltage of several thousand volts of sparks to ignite the lighter. So how exactly does it generate a voltage spark? In fact, the core lies in the piezoelectric ceramic. Its material is generally silicon dioxide, in fact, is often played with our childhood quartzite. When two pieces of quartz stone collision, friction will produce cremation, just as a child do not understand the reason. To figure out why, we have to get into its microscopic atomic structure. Silicon dioxide consists of silicon and oxygen atoms and has a hexagonal shape to its structure. In the atomic structure of this crystal, the silicon and oxygen atoms share electrons to form covalent bonds. However, the oxygen atom is smaller in size and the shared electron is closer to the oxygen nucleus, so the oxygen exerts a greater force on this shared electron than the silicon. Because the charge of the electron is negative, the oxygen atom shows a slight negative charge while the silicon atom shows a slight positive charge, so the oxygen and silicon atoms together form a dipole in the crystal, and these dipoles are arranged in such a way that the centers of the positive and negative charges coincide. Notice that when we apply a compressive force to the molecule, the centers of these charges will no longer coincide, creating a separation of charges, which is called polarization. This means that an electric field will be created between the positive and negative charges, thus creating a small voltage in the material. Whereas the structure of a quartz crystal consists of multiple similar hexagons connected together, compression instantly each hexagon acts like a small battery. They are able to be connected in parallel and series configurations to produce specific voltages and powers, and as the crystal material gets wider and thicker, it creates a higher current and voltage. So in a piezoelectric lighter, the hammer strikes the silica crystal. The greater the force, the greater the voltage generated by the spark, the instantaneous voltage of up to tens of thousands of volts, enough to ignite the lighter's gas, or let a person's body instantly numb. So after reading you learn. Do you know how powerful Iron Dome really is? It is Israel's core air defense system, capable of responding to complex and volatile weather conditions, and operates fully automated 24/7 to intercept and destroy short-range rockets and artillery shells. The system uses advanced optical radar and algorithms to predict the trajectory of incoming projectiles, and it doesn't take a second for it to determine whether or not they pose a threat to populated areas. If a threat is detected, it launches an interceptor missile to destroy the incoming projectile in midair. For less advanced rockets and mortars, Iron Dome has an intercept success rate of about 75 to 90%. A standard Iron Dome battery usually consists of 3 or 4 mobile launch cells, each carrying 20 ready-to-fire interceptor missiles at a cost of about $50,000 worth of interceptors each. Enemy-launched rockets, on the other hand, are much cheaper and naturally come in larger numbers. The high cost also limits the number of ready-to-fire missiles, making accuracy critical. With one Iron Dome battery protecting a medium-sized city area, the Iron Dome system struggles to achieve 100% interception against an intense barrage of shorter-flying, close-range rockets, as well as given the cost factor. Although it provides a sophisticated defense, there are limitations to any system, so Israel has also developed a multi-layered air defense system to deal with a variety of threats. The Iron Dome system is the innermost layer of Israel's air defense system, but due to its limitations, Israel is developing the Iron Beam high-energy laser interceptor system, which is expected to be used in conjunction with the Iron Dome system in 2025 to increase intercept efficiency in order to provide a cost-effective means of precision defense. Interceptor systems such as the Spear of David play a vital role in the middle layer of Israel's air defense system, which is designed to intercept targets such as airplanes, helicopters, and cruise missiles. The outermost layer of the air defense system consists of the Arrow long-range ballistic missile interceptor systems, which are used to intercept long-range ballistic missile threats in the upper atmosphere and in space. In addition to the land-based systems, Israel deploys the maritime Iron Dome system, which provides 360-degree protection of the coastline and intercepts missiles launched from the sea. Such a comprehensive interception system creates a multi-layered air defense network that can respond to a wide range of air threats at different ranges. Not content with this, however, Israel is continually investing in new air defense technologies and capabilities and expects to deploy even more advanced air defense systems in the future. Workers use hammerheads to repeatedly hammer the mud to make it black and shiny. Such a black mud is actually worth millions of dollars. But you would never guess that its predecessor was a generation of black ash. To get such a bag of black ash, you need to use decades-old pine trees, which is the best dead pine tree roots, rich in pine oil, can get 3 times more pine smoke. Workers take the materials locally in deep forests and then refine the smoke on the spot. It takes 3 days for the rich smoke to last, and a whole 50 kilograms of pine trees can only burn 2 to 3 kilograms of pine smoke. Only through the pine smoke so burned, only with the black convergence, thousands of years will not fade the characteristics of the color. The pine smoke also needs to be crushed by hand and screened repeatedly with fine silk, which is the top material for making huejo ink. Since ancient times, there has been the saying that 1 or 2 pieces of Huizhou ink is 1 or 2 pieces of gold, and the ink treasures left behind have lasted for thousands of years. The Chinese ink painting, light makeup and thick smear is always appropriate of the writing, but also cannot be separated from the grinding of the ink by the Hui ink. Hui ink comes with a light fragrance, and it is also moisture-proof and insect-resistant, thanks to the dozens of Chinese herbs that are added during the production of Hui ink. The glue used to make the ink is made from bovine glue, which often needs to be boiled for a whole day to absorb the essence of the herbs, and then the boiled glue is poured into the pine smoke for mixing, and the workers need to use hammers to hammer tens of thousands of times to make the pine smoke and the glue become one. The next step is to make the molds. The first will be drawn to the design of the water halo to the molds. Every ink maker is also a mature carver, the molds made by the simple in the self-bookish atmosphere. This mold, which has been passed down for 100 years, has carved the whole Zhuzi family tradition in a square inch, with a total of 542 words, each of which is no more than 2 millimeters, as if it has traveled through 100 years of time and space and come to us. Different molds correspond to different weights of ink blocks, which are kneaded into strips and then put into molds for pressing to shape. After removing the molds, the excess edges are trimmed with scissors and then placed in a cool place to dry for up to a year. In order to prevent the edges from buckling, the ink needs to be turned every day to give it time to settle, and the dust on the surface is carefully wiped off with a cloth. The final step is to use a gold brush to trace the gold color for the Hui ink injected a touch of brightness, the sense of simplicity to come. Good Anhui ink is not just ink, but a whole set of fine paintings. Even in this digital age, the humanistic temperature of ink writing is still irreplaceable by cold computer text.